Controversy is now overshadowing this event after invited speaker Breitbart editor Milo Yiannopoulos was seen on video apparently condoning sexual relations with boys and dismissing the seriousness of pedophilia by Catholic priests. CPAC has uninvited Yiannopoulos, and joining me now is Matt Schlapp. He is the chairman of the American Conservative Union, which is the group that organizes CPAC. Matt, thank you so much for coming on, especially as you're dealing. I know you're dealing, of course, with this controversy as you are looking towards the conference. Tell me about the decision to disinvite Milo, and also he was invited even before. It's not as if this is the first very controversial thing he said that many would argue is completely counter to what the American Conservative Union is trying to promote.
Yeah, just remember, first of all, we invite all kinds of people on our stage. An invitation isn't necessarily an endorsement, but it is an invitation to start to have a conversation. And what Milo did is he came to see me and said, look, I am being shut out at college campuses. He was just shut out at Berkeley. And I think that we should be allowed to talk on campus, and there shouldn't be these speech codes, and we shouldn't have this chilling on our ability to speak up our point of view, especially if it's from the conservative side. And I eventually decided to extend an invitation to him to talk about that subject of free speech on campus. After we announced in Brianna, these other videos came to my attention that did exactly as you described in the beginning of this piece, and we thought the CPAC stage is no longer the appropriate place for Milo to try to explain what he meant. He needs to do that on his own terms, and I think he's even having a press conference today to do that. But
you said the case that he made to you that you agreed with was we're being shut down, putting out our views on the conservative side.
That's right.
You could argue that he's not, I mean, he is not a conservative in the vein of conservatism, right? This is a guy who's been,
right.
I mean, he's racist. He completely has aligned himself with the alt-right. He's just this kind of bombastic iconoclast who takes on all kinds of things that just make him seem like a total hater, including, you know, anti-gay, even though he himself is gay. I mean, what do you say to that, where he doesn't necessarily speak to conservatism?
He doesn't call a conservative. He calls himself more of a libertarian, and we'll have speakers who are conservative, libertarian, moderate. We'll even have liberals on the stage. The key thing at CPAC is this: when there are controversies brewing in society, we have in the past sometimes tried to avoid those controversies on our stage. It has been my belief that it's better to put those controversies front and center. So what Milo was going to do was actually sit down for an interview with someone who was going to ask him the very same questions that you just asked me. We think that's respectful to our attendees, that they are in a position to make their own judgment calls on people. When we stop the conversation, we stop the ability to try to work through some of the coarser language and, quite frankly, some of the things that are completely inappropriate that he has said. And I talked to him about the alt-right and about those associations, and he has assured us that he does not support the alt-right. We don't support the alt-right. We're going to talk about the alt-right. You're right to bring it up because it is a menace and something that has no role in the conservative movement. But conservatives can have an open conversation about controversial topics, even things conservatives disagree on, and sometimes on campus they can't.
And I've been to CPAC many times, and it is pretty, I mean, you have some of the, I've seen some of the most liberals who appear, and it is an interesting conversation that is had. But what about this idea that so much of what he has said is hate speech? In your view then, would this have been an opportunity for participants of CPAC to denounce hate speech? What if he was attracting people who supported him, and in a way you're just promoting it? How do you make that call?
Well, it's a tough call to make, but he has a huge following, and our audience, as you know, because you've been there, is skewed young. It's up to 50% college age and younger, and he has a lot of following with those people.
But so Matt, what does that say to you if he has a huge following, and some could argue, well, look, maybe that's the future of conservatism? Don't you worry that conservatism is then?
No, not at all. I actually think we have traditional conservatives who don't like the fact that things change and society changes and there are new voices and there's confusion. I will give you that there's a lot of confusion in our culture, in our society, and conservatives look at our culture and our society and they're incredibly concerned. I want to engage in the problems that are facing the culture and society and talk about our conservative values and how they can help the situation. I mean, think of all the topics we're dealing with in society today. Is it really fair for the people who come to CPAC to not address them? We should address them. We should talk about them. We're adult enough to have that conversation, and I think people will make up their own minds as to who's a hater and who's not a hater, and we want to give them that opportunity.
All right, Matt Schlapp, thank you so much for joining us. We do appreciate it.
Thanks, Brianna.
And we're going to talk about a guy who worked at the CIA for years, but now says he cannot serve under President Trump. Up next, the final straw that made him quit his job. Plus, it may be an awkward meeting. Governor John Kasich was one of President Trump's biggest rivals, once questioning his ability to be commander-in-chief. So can they move past their differences when they meet face-to-face?
Your insurance company won't replace the full value of your totaled new car. The guy says, you picked the wrong insurance plan. No, I picked the wrong insurance company.